Okay, God's law number 8. Honor parents, live longer and better. Jesus said, Matthew 5:19, do and teach God's law. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Jim McCotter. Here is the 5th commandment of God's 10 commandments. Deuteronomy 5:16, quote, honor your father and your mother as the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live long and that it may go well with you, end quote. The Apostle Paul quoted this same law, but said what was first in Ephesians 6:2 and 3. Quote, honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise. If you honor your father and mother, things will go well with you and you will have a long life on the earth, end quote. This is an unbelievable promise. In John 3:16, Jesus promised how you can have eternal life. And here the Lord also promises how you can have a long life and good life here on earth. Many people spend thousands of dollars on exercise equipment or special food or supplements, not to speak of doctors and medical treatment, to hopefully live a little longer. Many people spend a fortune to just live a few months longer, but most never think about God's first commandment with a promise to live longer and better. It's certainly not wrong to eat well and exercise and get medical treatment if necessary. But I wonder how many people God looks down upon and says, if only they would keep my first commandment with a promise, and then I would keep my promise and they would live longer and better. This promise should be understood as God's general rule, but of course, God may make exceptions for his purpose or glory through an illness or a, quote, accident, or even a Christian martyr. There are many things unique about this 5th commandment. Number 1, it's the first commandment with God's promise. Number 2, it's the first commandment addressing people in the 10 commandments. Number 3, it's the only commandment that addresses specific people, your own father and mother. Number 4, it's the first commandment of importance even before the commandments regarding murder, adultery, stealing, and lying. Those who honor parents are far less guilty of these other crimes. Number 5, it's one of the 10 commandments that carries the death penalty when defied. In Exodus 21:17, Leviticus 20 verse 9, Deuteronomy 21:18 through 21. Number 6, it's the only commandment that Malachi, the last prophet of the Old Testament, said that it would destroy a nation when nationally defied. Malachi 4:6. It's the only commandment that Jesus brings up worthy of the death penalty when defied. Matthew 15:4 and Mark 7:10. It's the one of the commandments that the Apostle Paul said is worthy of death when defied. Romans 1:30 through 32. 4 of the 10 commandments directly relate to honoring God. The next most important subject the 10 commandments addresses is the family. 3 of the commandments directly relate to family: the 5th, the 7th, and the 10th. It is important to realize that this commandment, like all the others, was written for adults to obey. We all have parents, and if we want to honor the Lord and be blessed by the Lord to live longer and better, as adults, we will actively honor our parents. There are only one of 3 responses that every person makes to their parents regarding this commandment. Number 1, honors parents. Honoring someone can never be passive. To honor someone always requires some action in word and or deed. Openly praising them in some manner and or doing or caring for them in some way. This person will receive God's promise. Or number 2, doesn't honor parents. This is being passive. They may not actively be dishonoring, but neither are they honoring. They cannot claim God's promise of the long and better life here on earth. Number 3, dishonors parents. There are 2 ways a person dishonors a parent: in reviling speech or not helping when needed. Jesus himself declares to the self-righteous religious Pharisees what should happen to those who dishonor their parents. Matthew 15:4 through 10. But specifically in part, it reads, For God commanded, honor your father and your mother, and whoever reviles father or mother is to be put to death. But you say, whoever says to his father or mother, whatever I have that would help you has been given to God. He need not honor his father or mother. End quote. This fifth commandment is so important that if it is defied, Jesus himself brings it up to be the civil law death penalty. Some would assume if we really had that as part of our civil law, there would be thousands of executions. No, there would immediately be thousands of sons that would be careful to not dishonor their parents. Crime would dramatically go down. Murder, rape, stealing would dramatically decrease. Far, far more lives would be saved than would be executed for reviling parents. The destruction of family destroys towns, and unless stopped by righteous law, will inevitably multiply and destroy any nation, including our nation. Our early American Christian founders, they knew this. That's why they had what Jesus said here written into their laws. The Connecticut Law Code of 1650 at 29 stated, quote, if any child or children above 16 years of age and of sufficient understanding shall curse or smite their normal father or mother, he or they shall be put to death, unless it can be sufficiently testified that the parents have been very unchristianly negligent in the education of such children, or so provoke them by extreme and cruel correction that they have been forced thereunto to preserve themselves from death or maiming. They include in their law the following verses: Exodus 21:17, Leviticus 20, and Exodus 20:15, end quote. In 1934, the Louisiana Court of Appeals in Rice versus Clancy referred specifically to the Ten Commandments when making the following observation, quote, honor thy father and thy mother is as much of a command of the municipal law as it is part of the Ten Commandments, regarded as holy by every Christian people. A child, says the code, whatever be his age, owes honor and respect to his father and mother, end quote. The Ten Commandments were often referred to in civil trials, as for example in New York in 1953 with Beatty and McGoldrick, and in Maliski versus Locker in 1958, and in Pierce versus Yokovich in 1974. In early American, they seldom had divorces or broken families, nor dishonoring of parents like we have today. They didn't have mass shootings, homosexuals, transsexuals, or immorality like we have today. The difference? God's law. God's law then, the dilution of God's law today. Is there ever a time for Christians to revolt and reestablish their own Christian towns under God's law as their Christian forefathers did? The humanists have certainly done that today with their own immoral sanctuary city laws. The Muslims are certainly in the process of doing that today with their own immoral Sharia laws. And the tens of millions of Christians? Have they reestablished even one Christian town today in reestablishing God's law? Proverbs 7:2 says, quote, keep my commandments and live, and my laws as the apple of your eye.